Welcome along to Betting Weekly Extra Time, European edition. You're with myself, Dan Roebuck, alongside me, Steve Wyss and James Eastham. Steve, we've got the full complement of top European leagues for the first time in 2025 as LaLiga and the Bundesliga join the fray. More games to pour over, but that could mean it's a little bit more difficult for bettors. How are you? And what do you think when it comes to those leagues that are just kicking in for the new year?
Well, hello, Dan and James. I'm pretty cold this week. I was snowed in on Monday. Even missed a live show. You had to fill in for me there. You did great. You did great
Yes, I
job.
did. Thank you. Need the money.
But yeah, I'm glad that all the leagues are back, and I'm kind of going to be targeting the Bundesliga and La Liga in play. I think because look, these guys have had a winter break. We don't really know what they've been up to, and I just think sometimes you're better off watching these fixtures, seeing what if anything's changed. I do have a couple of leans as we'll come to, but I think the sensible play for those leagues, because they've been off for so long, is to, as you would say, have a watching brief. But I'm excited that they're back. Of course, I'm excited.
James, I always think it's strange because these days the French Super Cup or Trophy des Champions, we've had the Spanish Super Cup ongoing at the moment. The Italian Super Cup finished last weekend. I still can't get my head around the fact that they're all in January these days. I mean, it does disrupt the rhythm of certain teams' fixture schedules. I mean, we've got to take those sort of things into consideration, I guess, haven't we?
Yeah, it can be disruptive in terms of the schedule, but I think it can have an impact, good and bad, on a team's form actually for the second half of the season. We saw PSG win the Super Cup in France last week. All the reports coming back from that trip is that it was a good trip in terms of squad bonding, maybe sorting a few things out. So I think they'll be ready to go now for the second half of the season. And we'll come on to Serie A, Dan. Obviously, they've got an even bigger format for their Super Cup with four teams taking part in it. I think it could have a really significant impact on one or two teams in Italy that we'll be mentioning later. So it's certainly something for people to look at.
If you are new to the show, we've got the boys' profit and loss on screen for you to take a look at. Obviously, the show is in profit over the course of the season so far. And this is how we roll. Steve and James get 3 picks each. One of them is a 2-unit play, so that effectively is their strongest pick of the weekend. One of the other 2 picks, both of which carry 1 unit incidentally, must be on a selection that is plus 200 or bigger, or 2 to 1 or 3.0 if you're looking at decimal odds. Furthermore, each week, Steve and James alternate to provide a same-game parlay or a bet builder, usually on the big game of the weekend, and they also give some leans or suggestions on other games as we go. And my advice, unofficial advice, is to bet those leans as well. Get your comments in via YouTube. We are building a really strong community at Betting Weekly, and that because we, and of course, is our Twitter handle. We're on Blue Sky as well. Get your thoughts in the comments on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. We're inching towards 7,000 subscribers. And make sure that you're on our mailing list for our Betting Weekly newsletter. Head to bettingweeklystudios.com for details of that. Steve, that usually comes out, is it Monday?
Every Monday it's released. Get it straight into your inbox. Exclusive picks. There's been some great winners on the newsletter.
Yeah, it's all free. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Get yourself on the Betting Weekly newsletter mail out as well, because I think we've got some exclusive shows to come up. That's sort of what's planned, I think, with Nigel, our boss, over the course of the remainder of the soccer season. We go Saturday, Sunday, then Monday when it comes to the previews and the leans and the picks. We're going to kick off therefore on Saturday. And we've got Steve's hot dog selection first out the gate, as it has been recently, and it's been flying in as well for Steve, who is the father of the hot dog, the inventor of the hot dog. The hot dog is the 1-unit play where we go over 2 to 1 or bigger. Brest versus Lyon is the game that we're going to talk about. And Brest are plus 220 here, Lyon are plus 120. Now, Steve, when these two sides met last season, Brest were favourites. They won. They went to the top of the table. It was very early on in the season, and Lyon had a shocking start to the season, but it's very different this time around. Where is the hot dog money being placed this weekend?
Well, the hot dog saved me in the last 2 rounds, hasn't it? And I just want to thank everyone who sent me messages and comments about the hot dog, because I think ever since I started it, I always get more messages about the hot dog than any other pick. I think everyone loves it when a big play comes in, and thankfully the last two have come in for me. So I'm sticking with the same kickoff time this week. It served me well last weekend, and I'm literally moving from Ass to Brest here with my hot dog pick. You'll get that if you know your French team names. And I'm going to be backing. I say it was shocking, but it was maybe a bit funny. I'm going to back Brest straight on the money line, plus 220 as my hot dog pick of the week. And I think both these teams were disappointing for us last week. If you hear noise in the background, that's my quail, by the way. He's not very happy this week. But
you're going to have to tell the story about the quail. Do your pick first, and then we'll hear about the quail.
Plus 220. Both sides were poor for us last week. Lyon especially. I mean, we thought they were going to easily beat Montpellier. They beat them 1-0, but they actually should have lost the game. I don't know. I've just got a feeling that everyone's kind of for sale at Lyon this window, right? Certainly, excuse me, a lot of the big names are. And I didn't like the body language, what I saw on the pitch. I think some of the players, their heads are kind of elsewhere. They seem to lack rhythm. They haven't come out of the winter break very well. They generally could have lost 2 or 3-0 and not had a complaint against Montpellier. So I think they're going to struggle at Brest. A team they really, in both the meetings last year, Brest outplayed them. Simple as that. The freak 4-3 win for Lyon was very, very lucky. And I think Brest are the sort of side that can cause Lyon a lot of problems because they counter-attack really well. Lyon have a really soft underbelly at the back. They easily got at any teams that really have a good go against them, can create chances. We know Lyon have got a lot of goals in them, but the defence is unreliable. And Brest, away from home, they've been terrible this season, and it's disappointing last week that they lost at Angers, but I don't think a lot's changed really there. Away from home, it's almost the same old for Brest. But at home, they do have the 6th best record, 5 wins out of 8. And I think they can catch Lyon here. If Lyon play like they did last week, they'll lose this game. It's as simple as that. Could Lyon improve? Maybe. But I just think it could be a difficult month for Lyon. And a lot of the players might be just waiting for this transfer window to be over. And I think we'll see a fired-up Brest after losing to Angers last week. Plus 220, this looked too big a price to me. I thought it should have been a pick'em game, probably about plus 160, 170 each. So I do think we're getting a bit of value on the hot dog, straight on the nose here, for Brest to beat Lyon.
Did you question on Twitter that Lyon starting lineup last week, Steve? I think I saw you suggesting why weren't they starting with Cherki?
Don't get me started here. This really will get me started because there's certain players in that Lyon team who are just too raw still for me. The likes of Fofana, Nuame, Ben Rama. I think Ben Rama is a waste of space at the moment. He just shoots a lot. He's just got not enough of an end product. I know he scored in the French Cup before Christmas, which is probably why he got in the lineup. But honestly, it was a strange lineup, and some of the Lyon players are a little bit hot, a bit of hot air about them. I think in time they might come good, but they're not experienced enough at this point in time. So I didn't like that lineup. No.
And just quickly, since we've mentioned your quail, is your quail all right?
Oh, he's not very well. Unfortunately, I did once have about 5 or 6 quails, but I'm down to 2 now. One of my quails actually died a few days ago. And unfortunately, the male that I have, his name is Sage, is kind of very upset because that was his favourite female. And he's, he's very unhappy. He's not very happy. You can hear him now.
Look, we pass on our condolences. Are you going to get another one? Are you going to get another female for him?
Well, we hatch these quails. The missus hatched them.
Oh, I see.
From right from birth. So I don't know. I think I'm probably done with quails now.
Let's move on from quails to dogs. We've just done dogs, sorry, with Steve. Two unit plays with James here. Reims against Nice, not really a good segue, is it? That Reims plus 155, Nice plus 163 here. Draw plus 255. This is 1 p.m. Saturday. The Brest game is 11 a.m. on Saturday Eastern time. Now, according to the odds, James, this is the toughest game to call across the whole of the Ligue slate. So naturally, of course, James goes for a 2-unit play here. It's a surprise to me a little bit that Reims are the favourites here because in the form tables, Nice have got the better numbers. So give us your bet. Talk us through this one.
Yeah, I was surprised as well, Dan. I think Nice should be the favourites here. I actually think the prices will flip by the time it gets to kick-off, and Nice will be favourites. So let's see. Depending on when you're listening to the show, that might have already happened. But it is my 2-unit play, and it's on Nice. Draw no bet at Reims at minus 107. So if it ends in a draw, which it might do, you'll get your stakes back. But I don't see Nice losing the game, Dan, and so I was very confident to back them here and go with the 2-unit pick. Like to give Nice a little bit of love, actually, because we've not mentioned them a lot on the show this season. They've sort of flown under the radar. I haven't done the stats on it, but I would say that Nice have probably had more players out through injury and suspension than any other team in League One this season. I think if you're talking about the 13 or 14 players who would ordinarily be competing to start, if you were to add up at Nice, they've had an awful lot of players missing, and they've still only lost 3 games out of 16. So I think they've done really well. I think if they had a fuller squad for most of the season, they might be a little bit higher than they are in the table, and yet they are 6th, and they're only 3 points off 3rd. So I think Nice are doing a little bit better than people think. I was really impressed with them last weekend. They beat Rennes 3-2. We didn't look at that game because it was the Friday night game, but there were plenty of positive signs for me from Nice, and some of their players have been coming back from injury, so they should have a pretty good squad of players to pick from this weekend. They should have good momentum from that win last weekend. And as I say, I was really surprised to see them as the underdogs here. It is obviously quite close. Rennes plus 155, Nice plus 165. But I think Reims are not playing as well as this market would suggest. And actually, there's a stat on Reims, Dan, which again would have gone under the radar. But if you actually look at who they've beaten this season, they've only won 2 of their last 10. And those wins were against Le Havre and Montpellier, who are currently the bottom 2. If you look at Reims all season, the only teams they've beaten are teams who are currently in the bottom 6. So there's a real strong pack of evidence here that Reims can beat the bottom teams, no problem. They can win those matches. But the minute they play a mid-table team or someone near the top, they're either going to draw it or they're going to lose it. So all of that put together led me to make this the 2-unit play. You are right. It is slightly odd because we don't have a clear favourite in this game and I'm going 2 units on it. But I think the market has got this wrong, as I say. I think Nice should be favourites. I think they might well be favourites by the time the game kicks off. And with this pick, of course, you do have that safety net of getting your stakes back if the game ends in a draw. So it's Nice for me. It's my 2-unit play on the draw no bet market. And at the moment, as we're recording, it's available at minus 107.
That game 1 p.m. on Saturday. We have got we've got one lean from Italy on Saturday. We're just going to squeeze it in here time-wise because it's midday Saturday. Steve, you just got some thoughts here on the Derby della Mole, which is the Turin derby. Juve unbeaten in 21 against Torino, just 1 defeat in the last 39. Juve are the away team here. What are your thoughts on this one? Just a quick lean from you.
It's an absurd dominance, isn't it, that Juventus have in this fixture? I remember reading about it many times down the years. The lean is under 2 goals, Asian goals at minus 103. I mean, in the last 20 meetings, Juventus have won this fixture 1-0 or 2-0. So it's the derby game. Both sides really go at it. Lots of fouls, stop-start sort of thing. Torino would take a draw now if you offer them it. The problem with Torino is they just can't score goals down. So so many unders for Torino this season, and Juventus have, whilst they've been scoring more recently, I don't see this match opening up to you. I mean, the main thing is where are Torino getting a goal from? So I think you're looking at 0-0 as a danger score, 1-0, 2-0 Juventus, under 2 Asian goals at minus 103.
Just a quick lean for the Derby della Mole, midday on Saturday. Sticking with the Italian theme, we've got James 1-unit play next. Milan against Cagliari, 2:45 on Saturday. The Cagliari curse that inflicted us for much of the early part of the season very much banished when the boys had a real significant win against them a couple of weeks ago. And then Steve's both teams to score yes play involving the Sardinians was also a winning play last week. So David Nicola's team feature again here, but James, Milan are the focus of the bet. And you trailed the fact that the Supercoppa might be a a positive for certain sides. I'm guessing you think it will be for the Rossoneri here.
Yeah, I do, Dan. For people who didn't watch it, they won the Super Cup. They beat Juventus in what would be the semi-final in that competition. Then they came from 2-0 down to beat Inter to win it 3-2. So it's been a fantastic week for Milan, fantastic start to the year, and an amazing start for their new manager, Sergio Conceição, who went in there on December the 30th, I think it was, to replace Paulo Fonseca, who was sacked. Absolutely dream start. And I genuinely think it could be the start of almost like a new season for Milan, because they've always had more potential, I think, this season than they've shown. They've been off the pace in Serie A. They're in 8th at the moment, although they do have games in hand on some of the teams above them. So with the start they've had and fairly good team news, a lot of the big name players played in that Super Cup and contributed, the likes of Rafael Leao, Pulisic, some big moments from Mike Maignan in goal. I think we could see a different Milan in the second half of the season. So I'm backing them this weekend. They're obviously short odds to win it, minus 315 to get the 3 points at home to Cagliari. So I'm backing them on the Asian handicap, minus 1.25 start on the Asian handicap, which is available at minus 130. I think maybe the question mark people have against Milan is how much will those 2 Super Cup games have taken out of them. They were played in Saudi Arabia, although we've mentioned before on the show that maybe these trips to the Middle East aren't particularly draining for players these days because it's not that far, first of all, and obviously the conditions they travel in are really good. So I think they should be okay. Obviously 2 games in a short space of time in that Super Cup is a concern. He didn't actually rotate that much, I should say. I think 10 players started in both of those matches in Saudi. So maybe we could see some rotation this weekend, but they've got a pretty good squad. And as I say, I think the momentum that they take into this game from that Super Cup win should be really strong. So I wouldn't be that concerned by how inconsistent Milan have been in Serie A so far this season. It's obviously very early days, but I think we'll see an improvement. And just on Cagliari, they've been poor generally against the top sides this season. I think they've lost 5 out of 7 against sides currently in the top 6. That includes some really heavy defeats. I think it was 4-0. They lost at home to Napoli, 3-0 to Inter. So no particularly strong form from them. I think they've lost 5 out of 9 away from home. There's a slight risk to it, as I say, because I'm sort of putting a lot on this momentum from the Super Cup and the change of manager that we're now going to get better performances from Milan, play closer to their potential. Some people may want to wait a couple of weeks and just see how they do in the league first, which I would understand. But I think this is a time to get with them, because I think on Milan, honestly, I think some of their prices to win this type of game could shorten if they do build up any sort of form. So, yeah, willing to back them this weekend. If they win by a single goal, you're only going to lose half your stakes. If they go on and win by 2 goals or more, you'll have a winning pick. So it's Milan, Asian handicap, minus 1.25 goal start.
Yeah, I think you're only tired if you're losing. If you win these competitions, you do build that momentum. Let's get to Rennes Marseille, because this is James's hot dog. 3 p.m. Saturday, Rennes plus 188, Marseille plus 150. This is your first shot on target play, or official shot on target play, for a little while. We know that an awful lot of our viewers and listeners are huge fans of these, and I can always imagine you on a Wednesday night sort of printing off every single shot on target price, pouring through them all, getting a pen out, striking through them all, getting a short list of 5, and then saying, yeah, this one. So who is it this week?
Yeah, that is a remarkably
Does anyone print
good
anything
description,
off anymore?
Dan, of exactly what I do every Wednesday night, to be completely honest. Yeah, I did that. I've been through all the prices in France League 1 to find the best shot on target pick. It is Valentin Rongier of Marseille, midfielder, who is plus 310 to have over 0.5 shots on target. He's a player that people might not know. He's not a France international. He's been knocking around the French league for a long time. And he's a very good player. And he broke back into the Marseille side in late November and has had a transformative effect, just generally away from the shot on target market, but generally had a transformative effect on the team's performances, providing really, really good balance in midfield. A very smart player who plugs gaps when other people are moving all over the pitch. So really important player now in De Zerbi's system at Marseille. And he's way too big this weekend. Simple as that, to have a shot on target, in my opinion. Plus 310 is way too big. Because anybody that watched Marseille last weekend when they won 5-1 against Le Havre will have seen Rongier scored with a great shot from just outside the penalty area, found the bottom corner. And in the 5 games in the league since Rongier broke into the Marseille starting lineup, he's managed a shot on target in 3 of them. So at the moment, very small sample size, but at the moment he's managing a shot on target in more than 50% of his games. The way that he plays also, for me, lends itself to this market because he is a box-to-box midfielder. Højbjerg didn't play last weekend, the former Tottenham player. He would normally be a bit deeper than Rongier. He does have license in De Zerbi's system to get forward and get into scoring positions. And just generally on how will Marseille play in this game? They're away from home. Will they be more cautious? I don't think they will at all because, first of all, they've been in such good form generally anyway. I think they've won 5 of their last 6 that I think they'll go for it this weekend. And they've probably been better away from home this season than they have at home. They had that big win at home to Le Havre last weekend, but they've generally been really positive on the road. So I think it'll be an attacking performance generally from Marseille, and there's every reason to believe that Rongier will play a part in that. So he's not a prolific goal scorer. He's not going to be the main man in terms of getting shots on target. He is a midfielder, but I do think at the moment, given how he and Marseille are playing, plus 310 is too big. So that is my number 1 shot on target pick for the week is Valentin Rongier at Marseille to have just over 0.5 shots on target in the game.
If the price changes and these prices, these prop bets, they can change quickly, what's acceptable to you, James, in terms of what you would advise our viewers and listeners to take here on Rongier?
Well, he's so big for me that I would have anything down to, I suppose, from where we are.
Anything over 2s?
Yeah, 210, 220, 230. Yeah. If he was 190, I probably would have hesitated, but anything from plus 210, I would be taking him.
There you go, just in case he gets bet, which can happen. Not tempted with Marseille? You mentioned their great away record and your 2-unit play that I questioned last week came in very, very easily. Not tempted with Marseille money line or getting with them at some point?
I just have a few concerns. Rennes have got a potentially new goalkeeper. They've signed Brice Samba from Lens this week. Brilliant goalkeeper, so they'll be, I think, quite upbeat about that signing. It's a real coup to get him. Quite a dangerous and unpredictable side. So Marseille might well win it, Dan, but when I looked at the prices, I thought, yeah, about right. It would be potentially a draw no bet pick for me, would Marseille, rather than Marseille on the money line.
Steve, very quickly on Marseille, not betting them this week.
I got burnt by Rennes last week. I actually backed them away to Nice. I fancied Rennes to do well, but they didn't perform. I mean, Steve Mandanda had a shocker. That's him done now, isn't it? Really. Now with
how old Steve Mandanda? He must be 53.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Absolute legend. I want to put that on record. But yeah, he had a bad game last week. Marseille good away from home. I don't know. It's a tough game, this one. Could any result is possible.
All right. Well, let's hope that Rongier gets a shot away and it's on target for our particular bet here. That's James's hot dog pick. We've got no official plays in Germany and Spain, but we have got a couple of leans. Steve, you can rattle through both Bundesliga and LaLiga Saturday here. First of all, in Germany, 9:30 a.m. St Pauli, Eintracht Frankfurt. This is an interesting play for me on this one, Steve. This sort of goes against the grain, but it sort of doesn't as well, because you've got one team that doesn't score, but one team that does. What's the play? Up or down? Higher or lower? Under or over?
Unders. I think the whole month you've got to look for unders in Germany. It's pretty cold there in January normally, and that's last season. I think was a big trend at this time of year. But I think St Pauli against Eintracht Frankfurt here, under 2.5 goals at plus money, plus 102. Average goals per game at this venue, 1.7. St Pauli have the most under 2.5 goal games of any team in the Bundesliga. They did me recently, didn't they? I backed Stuttgart against them, and it's so annoying how many bodies they get behind the ball, just blocking shots, things like that. They love to defend. They really annoy me. They're not. I like my teams in the Bundesliga just to be gung ho mental. Damn. I don't mind a bit of defense, but not in Germany, please. So they go against the grain completely. Frankfurt obviously do score a lot of goals. That's why this goal line is so high. But Marmouche is linked. Their top players linked with a move to the Premier League this window. Man City are linked
with City, isn't he? Yeah.
Look, what sort of state is he going to be in? You know, he's a professional, of course he is. But will they reel him out? Will they risk an injury? What sort of mindset's he in? So if your star man's under the microscope for a transfer, that always puts me in doubt about whether they can perform. I actually think the most likely outcome is 0-1 or 0-2 to Frankfurt, because St. Pauli don't score many goals. But they are so annoying in how they defend. They love defending.
So we're going to go unders on that one. And briefly, Betis Valladolid, you've pulled out a play or a lean for us here as well.
Well, I just had a look at the La Liga card, and I was like, is there an obvious play here I can just get stuck into? I know it's the first round back after a few weeks. And if in doubt, how about bet against the worst team in the league? Who, for me, that is Valladolid, who, I mean, they've had, I think, more defeats than any other team. Really struggling down there at the bottom of the table. Worst, probably arguably the worst offense, worst defense. And Real Betis are, let's remember, they're a team in Europe this season. They are a pretty solid mid-table outfit who are very inconsistent, but I do think they've been affected by playing in Europe this season. So this is a nice time of year for them before, you know, the European adventures resume again. And I think on the money line, away from home, -120, they're just a better team. It's as simple as that. It just looked like the most obvious money line bet on the La Liga card, because many times I do love fading bad teams. Valladolid's recent win was against Valencia, but I watched that match and I think Valladolid had one shot in the game, maybe two, and they somehow hung on. They're not very good. Real Betis should be winning this game now.
Sunday selections for you. Going to kick off with Steve's one-unit play in Italy, 9 a.m. Sunday Eastern. It's Genoa versus Parma. Genoa are favourites, minus money, -113. Parma remain on my hit list of fades. Steve, expected goals against 41.76. Most in Serie A. They've only conceded 34. Any regression means that they're going to start losing. But they did draw with Torino. I did do my money last week. But I'm prepared to fade them again. I'm going to go along with your selection here. I've given it away, but talk us through your pick.
Yeah, I'm going to be back in Genoa here on the money line for the one-unit play. Second straight week, I'm going to give Genoa a go. Didn't lose anything with them last week. They got a 0-0 draw away against Lecce. I mentioned how Patrick Vieira is really difficult to beat when he first comes into a club. I think he'll target this game because I totally agree with you. And your words still ring in my head here about how bad Parma were in that win they had recently. And I don't think they were that great against Torino either. It's just the simple fact is Torino can't score goals. That's why it ended 0-0. So, yeah, there's quite a strong influence from you on this pick, Dan. It's good when we work together.
I don't mind that. Don't worry. Just don't blame me if it goes wrong. Everybody.
Yeah. Well, a shout out here to FGA Football, actually, who put a comment in the live show yesterday. He actually subscribed to us and then unsubscribed and then resubscribed because he said he just couldn't make his mind up when all of us are against each other with different opinions. So I think it's great when we're kind of on the same hymn sheet here. And I think James would probably agree with this pick as well, actually, if he had an opinion about it. Because you're right, Parma's metrics are so bad this season. You watch them on the field, they don't play very well. Now, they have lost 3 of the last 5 games. They beat Monza. That was a very lucky win. And Torino should have beaten them last week, but just couldn't find a way to hit the back of the net. Patrick Vieira, you know that this Genoa side have got a very good chance of keeping a clean sheet under him. So the danger scoreline is 0-0 again. If Genoa get 1 goal, I think we can be quite confident they win the game. And that's all it takes here. 1-0 would do us very, very nicely. I actually think Genoa are capable of winning this by more because Parma are so bad defensively. They concede so many chances. -113, that looked too big to me. I thought that the fair price here would be about the -140 range. Genoa are a much classier side, and we are just waiting for Parma to go on a really bad run, I think, Dan. There's a lot of things pointing towards fading Parma over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I'll be on that train. Don't worry about that. France, Sunday Leans, 3 of them, sort of, 3.5 in a way. Steve, you're first up because we're going to go chronologically. 9 a.m. And Le Havre versus Lens. What's your lean here?
Lens win to 0, +132. It's funny because I messaged James last week when Le Havre scored their consolation at Marseille, and I said, who would ever be a win to 0 backer based on what we've seen there? Because there's no way in a million years that Le Havre deserved a goal. No. So that's the problem with win to 0, isn't it? All it takes is one moment. But Le Havre, I think, are a big team to fade right now. They're awful. I think they're the worst team in Ligue 1. They've got no goal-scoring threat, and they're just trying to hang on for 0-0, stay in games. Lens have been disappointing this year, but their record against the poorer teams is quite good. They won away to St Etienne, they won away to Reims, won away to Angers. This is a similar sort of opposition. The problem with Lens is they don't convert their chances. If we look at XG metrics, they massively underachieve in front of goal. And some would say that's just not bad luck. It's just because they're not good enough. And I would agree with that. But against the poor teams, they've got more chances of scoring. I think 0-1, 0-2. The 2-0 correct score, I think, rings quite right with me. I wanted to have Lens as a pick, actually. But on the money line, I would have wanted, I think, minus 110. They're minus 150 on the money line. So win to 0 at plus 132 is the lean instead.
Strasbourg at Toulouse for you, James. Surprised me this league. It's only a lean, but Toulouse, according to the form tables here, last 8, they've won 6. Only Paris Saint-Germain have taken more, but you're fading them here in a lean against Strasbourg.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of love as well from the French media this week at Toulouse because of those stats you've mentioned, Dan. But I'm not buying it, to be honest. I think they've been quite lucky with some of those results. They beat Lens last weekend, but only after Lens had gone down to 10 men. There've been quite a few things like that happening, I think, in some of their games. So maybe not quite as good as the results would suggest. And when I saw the price here, they're very short favourites to win at Toulouse. I think minus 134. That's just a wrong price for me because I actually think these two sides over a season are probably as good as each other. And I think Strasbourg have had their period of bad form and should get better now. And actually Toulouse might be about to do the opposite. So I'm trying to get ahead of that change, really. I thought Strasbourg were really good last weekend against Auxerre. They came from behind to win that game 3-1. They've always got a defensive mistake in them, have Strasbourg. That is the concern. They just handed the goal to Auxerre last weekend, but did come back strongly. So I think they've got a bit of momentum from that. And I think if you put these two sides against each other and you were to pick a combined team, I think Strasbourg are probably as strong as Toulouse, and you'd have plenty of Strasbourg players in it. So it's not me really saying I think Toulouse can't win the game. It's more about the price. I thought they'd be nearer to evens, and minus 134 is quite short. So that led me towards Strasbourg or tie, which is available at plus 100. 2 out of 3 horses running for you, and you only lose if Toulouse win the game. I think plus 100 on that market is a really good shout. And just that half pick you were mentioning, I wanted to flag up a player in the shot on target market for Strasbourg, Felix Lamarachal, young player who came on last weekend for Strasbourg and scored. He's plus 270 this week to have over 0.5 shots on target. If he starts, which I think he might do because he played really well after he came on last week, I think you'll get a good run for your money with that price because we don't have a lot of data on him. He doesn't start many games. So unlike the Rongier pick earlier, which was a stats bet really, there's no stats on this. But if you watch the way Lamarachal plays, I'm not sure yet what his best position is. I don't think the manager knows yet, but he's a sort of an attacking midfielder. He'll get all over the pitch in the final third, and he's not afraid to have a go on goal. So I think plus 270 on Lamarachal. It's a bit of a flyer, but if he were to start, then I think you'd get a good run for your money with that price.
11:15 a.m. on Sunday. We're underway for that one, so team news out about an hour before. Watch out for the name. Might be worth a little bit of a flutter, just a lean on that over 0.5 shots market on Lamarachal. And finally, also kicking off 11:15 a.m. Montpellier Angers. Thought you might go moneyline Montpellier, Steve. I noticed that you were relatively impressed with them, even though they've had a shocking season last weekend. But it's the goal line you're looking at here for their game against Angers.
Well, midway through the Lyon-Montpellier game last week, I was already eyeing up Montpellier to win this fixture. But then they lost in the last minute to an own goal, and you could tell they were really deflated by it. And then Angers produced a quite decent performance against Brest the next day, so yeah, it put me off back in Montpellier, but I think now we're in a situation where Montpellier are desperate, really desperate. They're 6 points from safety, and that's just the playoff position. So this is a must-win game for them. And when teams get desperate, I'm always looking towards the goal line overs, and over 2.5 goals at minus 122. The problem is it does take 2 to tango, and I've got a feeling Angers might come here and try and just get a draw. However, because of Montpellier's desperate state, I'm willing to take a nibble on the over 2.5 goal line at -122. And based on what we saw last week, they should have actually scored 3 goals on their own against Lyon. So if they play like they did last week, they will beat Angers. No doubt about it. The last 2 matches here at home have been 2-2 draws against Lille and Nice. So again, those are much better teams than Angers. I think Montpellier are going to win this game 2-1 or 3-1. I wouldn't trust their defence. But I prefer to take the goals, I think, than the money line because when teams get desperate, they panic and set in and they can make mistakes.
We're going to go over this. It's just a lean, and we got a couple of Sunday Italian leans for you as well. One from Steve, one from James. Steve, Bologna-Roma is the focus of your Sunday lean. It's a midday kickoff, Easton.
It's a little bit similar to the last game in terms of we've got a team that I think is just chomping at the bit to be involved in high-scoring games at the moment, and that's Roma. And then a Bologna side who generally are more underish. But I've got the feeling this might explode into a decent contest. If we look at, watching Roma recently under Ranieri, this is in that phase. It reminds me of the phase he had initially at Leicester where all the games were wild, weren't they? Crazy end-to-end. And then they started winning 1-0 when he sorted them out. But I don't think he sorted out this defence yet. I have no idea how last week's Rome derby went under 2.5 goals. No way. The overbackers were so unlucky there. They were really unlucky in the Milan-Roma game as well that ended 1-1. So based on what we've seen there, I think we're going to see plenty of goals flowing Roma matches. They've got a serious counter-attacking threat. But at the back, you wouldn't trust them either. Bologna are a much more difficult team to work out. I don't tend to have much luck with them. That recent defeat home to Verona 3-2, where did that come from? If they defend like that again, then they're in trouble. So that's why I thought over 2.5 goals at +120 is a big price. I thought this would be minus money at about, say, -125. So, based on value, based on what I'm seeing from Roma, I think we could see the goals flow.
Yeah, I don't know how Lazio didn't score in that game, as you say. Just speaking of Verona, they're away at Napoli. James, Napoli have been our friends of the show. Antonio Conte's side, we made quite a lot of money betting them in various different markets. They're obviously short here against Verona. What is the play for you here? What is the lean in the Napoli game?
The lean is Napoli -1.5 on the Asian handicap at home to Verona at -141. It's a slightly speculative lean in that I'm counting on Napoli's home form to improve. We've made most of our winning picks on Napoli away from home, where they've had not only wins but some really big wins. Another one last weekend at Fiorentina when they won 3-0 when we went on them. So I'm backing Napoli to translate some of that big winning form to their home matches, which we haven't seen, you have to say. If you look at their last 5 at home, there are no wins in those last 5 by more than a single goal, and there's actually a couple of defeats in there. So that's why I say it's slightly speculative. I'm expecting at some point Napoli to start to play at home like they have been away from home. And this, I think, is a good chance to do that. Verona, they've had a couple of good wins away from home recently, so people might look at that short-term form and think they'll be dangerous, but their longer-term form away from home is poor. They've lost 6 out of 9 on the road this season. So lining things up, I think this could be the weekend that Napoli finally get a win by a couple of goals at home, and if they do that, then you'll have a winning pick. But it is only a lean and a slightly speculative one. I'm confident Napoli can do it, but if you're more of a stats better, then this would maybe be the lean you move away from. It's Napoli -1.5 on the Asian handicap, and it's about -141 at the moment.
Now, if you are new to the show, as I said right at the top of the programme, we have 2 unit plays from both of our cappers and a same game parlay. And you'll have noticed that Steve's 2 unit play and save game parlay have not yet appeared on the show. Well, they do now because they're in the same game. Paris Saint-Germain against St Etienne, 2:45 Sunday Eastern. PSG are very short here, -14.30. St Etienne are 25-1 here. Now, if you were with us last week, and Steve, you got a lot of credit, rightly so, from a lot of our viewers about your assessment of St Etienne and their new coach. Absolutely brilliant, spot on, called the money line, called the overs, called the way that they played. Really good hit. And therefore, it was always going to be massive minus money that you're going to try and find a bet with them this week. So you've not only gone 2 units, you've gone same game parlay. Talk us through your 2 units here. 25 to 1 is big for a 2-unit play, but more power to you. What have you gone for your 2-unit play?
Well, I did promise last week if I got St Etienne to win for me, then I would be looking at taking them in some sort of official capacity this week. So I'm chucking all of my winnings on that hot dog winner last week on St Etienne here, just to score a goal. St Etienne over 0.5 goals at -103. Just need them to hit the back of a net once or more in the game. They could get beat 10-1 and still win this bet. And I just think it's a really big price for them to hit the back of the net here. And the good thing about the bet is it stays alive for the whole match for you. The game could be done by half time, but I think they would still keep going. Eric Horneland came in and my God, they put in a performance straight away. I was surprised how quickly he managed to get this style through. I mentioned the passes per defensive action last week, how they were the second worst team on average for that, around 16 per game. Well, in the first half hour last week, St Etienne restricted Reims to less than 4 passes per defensive action. It was through the roof.
And this is a pressing stat, Steve.
Yeah, this is pressing, yeah. Oh, incredible pressing team. And the numbers in the first half an hour and then also the 15-20 minutes after half-time were through the roof. So you might say, oh, he's not going to do that against PSG. And even if in the media he comes out and says we're going to attack PSG, a lot of people will doubt him. A lot of people just think he's going to come here, park the bus. I've never known this manager do that. Then again, he's never been such a big underdog. But I do remember the match in Norway last year where he took his brand side to Bodø Glimt, where they were an underdog, and he just tried to take the game to them. Tough match to assess because the brand got down to 10 men for the last 80 minutes and they ended up losing 5-1. But I don't think he's going to be afraid of PSG. I think he's going to try and catch them cold. And one thing, the 2 big stats is the foul numbers were up. The duel numbers were up in the final third of the field. So he's going to really press that PSG defence and midfield, and they'll create some chances on the break. We also saw them move the ball forward very, very quickly. For the third goal especially, it was a very good goal for St Etienne last week. That's the sort of goal that Eric Horneland wants here. PSG, I think, will enjoy the game. They're going to get, rather than facing a boring team which is going to park the bus, they will get more space, and PSG probably will win this game. However, if St Etienne did get something here, it wouldn't shock me. The double chance is only plus 650 on St Etienne, so I thought it was a bit too short, really. I would have wanted about 8 or 9 to 1 on that. But 25 to 1 on the money line? Yeah, 25 to 1 at the time of recording on the money line. 18 to 1 on the draw no bet. Maybe I'm dreaming here. But if that did happen, I wouldn't necessarily be completely shocked, because I think PSG have got one massive game on the horizon soon. It's Man City in the Champions League. I think their minds might already be on that game. It's a huge game for them down the line. And I don't think they're going to take St Etienne seriously at all. The visitors can get on the score sheet. PSG, by the way, have conceded plenty of goals this season. They're not impermeable. And all we need is Lever here to get 1 goal on the board. And I think they can do that at minus 103. It's my 2-unit play. St Etienne to score a goal against PSG.
The Asian line is plus 275 for St Etienne at minus 107. The goal line, the Asian line, is 4, minus 112 either side as we speak. And although you can't have Asian plays for bet builders, same game parlays, you are looking at goals, and you've got corners, and you've got the European handicap, the 3-way handicap, which I think is the biggest mugs bet of all time, even though every time I say that to Jack, it tends to win. So maybe I should reassess that. But they're all involved in your same game parlay here, Steve. You've got 4 elements to it.
Yeah, look, listen, I was really struggling to find the same game parlay this week. I've struggled to find winners on this season, as we know. So I just thought, you know what, let's just tackle a game that I feel real strongly about. And plus 850 here's the same game parlay. So I'm going with St Etienne to score over 1.5 goals. So the team total over 1.5. I've already said why I fancy him to score 1 goal. Let's see if they can get 2 or more goals here. Now PSG have only conceded 2 or more goals on, I think, 5 occasions this season, but Strasbourg managed to get a couple of goals here. Angers scored twice against them. It was a bit of a weird one. But if that can happen, then St Etienne, I think, will give it a go. So over 1.5 St Etienne goals. Going to go both teams to score, yes. Believe it or not, it actually pushed up the price by $0.50. So, I mean, St Etienne not going to keep a clean sheet here. So both teams score yes. Because we're already on them, obviously, score over 1.5. Also over 7.5 match corners. PSG games average over 10 corners per match this season. There were 15 corners in the St Etienne fixture last week. That's another feature of the Horneland system. Happy to put bodies on the line and stop crosses. And I think PSG could get close to 10 corners actually in this match as well, for those looking for individual corner lines. And then the final element is the three-way handicap, the European handicap. I honestly, I put this in just for you, Dan, on it. I really did. Because I know you're such a big fan of this. But this is the three-way handicap, and I'm doing it where St Etienne start with the 3-goal start. So to put things into basic terms, we need St Etienne to stay within 2 goals of PSG. If they lose by 2 goals, then this part of the element wins. If they lose by 1 goal, if it's a draw, or if they win the match, it wins as well. If they lose by 3 goals exactly, the bet's gone. But plus 850, quite a complicated SGP. St Etienne over 1.5 goals. St Etienne on the 3-way handicap start with the 3-0 start. Both teams score yes, over 7.5 match corners at plus 850, half a unit on the SGP.
There we go. Good luck with that one. Should be a really entertaining game. We're looking for goals. We're hoping that St Etienne can maybe spring a surprise as well. Monday night, to cover off the weekend from James and from Steve, we've just got some thoughts on the 2 games in the major leagues. That's Monza Fiorentina in Italy and Real Sociedad against Villarreal in Spain. James, you've taken a look at this one for us. 2:45 Eastern PM for Monza against Fiorentina here. What's your lean in this one?
Yeah, my lean is on Fiorentina to win the game at minus 127. Very close to a 1-unit play for me, this, Dan. I think I described Fiorentina last weekend as unpredictable. And they then went and lost 3-0 to Napoli. But I think against the weaker sides in the division, they've actually been pretty consistent this season. Plenty of wins to nil, actually, against some of the bottom sides. And Monza are as weak as it gets at the moment. For people that don't follow Serie A closely, Monza are bottom of the table, 7 points from safety. Lost 11 out of 19, lost 5 in a row. They're not losing by much. They're narrow defeats, but they're defeats nonetheless. So I think a really good chance here for Fiorentina to get 3 points. Straight on the money line, Fiorentina to win the game.
At minus 127 at the moment. And Real Sociedad against Villarreal. Steve, you took a brief look at this one for us for Monday night soccer players.
Wow, this is a real mismatch in terms of style. But this is a bit wild. But Berlin is both teams score yes at minus 120. And I say a bit wild because the last 11 Real Sociedad games have been both teams score no. How is that even possible? Like, I can't believe that stat. It's ridiculous. But Villarreal 16 times this season in all comps. Both teams score yes. So we've got an ultimate both teams score no against a both teams score yes. I am going to bank on Villarreal kind of making it into a shootout. But this is why it's only a lean. I did look at this as a pick, actually, because it's a huge price for a Villarreal match. You would never get this normally. And it's just because of Real Sociedad's unbelievable knack of getting involved in unders. I mean, they're the classic team. They underachieve offensively. They overachieve defensively. But I would if there was a 1-1 draw, it wouldn't surprise me. This run can't continue. 11 straight games, both teams score no. Like, how is that possible? Like, you concede goals by accident sometimes. I can't believe that statistic.
So there we go. Both teams to score yes. Bit of regression. Just can't keep going with his BTTS no's. That's Real Sociedad versus Villarreal. Just a couple of leans for you to round out the weekend. The boys have been in good form when it comes to the Monday night action, and good to see Spain back in the fold. Steve, James, thanks for your company. Good luck to one and all. We'll keep everyone updated, of course, via our X feeds. That is a wrap for Betting Weekly Extra Time European show. We'll be back next week. Picks, plays, hot dogs. Live show, of course, every single day. 11 a.m. Eastern. Always plenty of soccer chat, tennis plays as well. We cover as much as we can do every midweek day. Follow us at Because We Win on Twitter. And subscribe to the YouTube channel. As we mentioned at the top of the show, we're inching towards 7,000 followers. And obviously, the more subscribers we get, and it is free, then the more chance that our coverage and our content will grow over the months and years to come. That is it for now, though. Have a good betting weekend. We'll see you next week.